in the Japanese gallery, and we're looking at a Haniwa and Dogu. The Dogu is the smaller figure that you see on the right, and the Haniwa is the taller one on the left. And I'm going to start by talking about the Haniwa, and then we'll find out why I wanted to talk about these two figures together and why they're placed in the gallery next to one another. So the Haniwa dates to around 400 Common Era. It's earthenware, so that means it's made of clay. And this is fired at a low temperature, which makes it really fragile. So we're quite lucky to have one that's in such great shape. This work of art is a tomb figure, and we call it Haniwa, which means clay cylinder, because in the early stages of Haniwa, they were just that. They were these hollow clay tubes served as stands for offering vessels for rituals, or that's what we think. So in Japan, when someone died, multiple Haniwa would be placed above ground, surrounding the tomb, almost like a fence. So this is during the Kofun period. Kofun is the name of these tombs, the shape of the tombs, which are kind of keyhole-like. If you know what a keyhole looks like, we have a lot of keyless entry nowadays, so that may not be the best description. So Kofun period around 300 to 552 Common Era, and it's named for these really large royal tombs. So various grave goods would be placed inside of the tomb underground, similar to what we talk about in ancient China. Then in the afterlife, you still have these certain needs that need to be met, and so you need goods placed with you. In fact, the Japanese government has never allowed one of these major Kofun burial mounds to be excavated, but we do know a decent amount about the practice. So when we're talking about the Haniwa, the first Haniwa were pretty simple. They were just the cylindrical tubes for ritual. But then something really fun happens, and by the 5th century, they start becoming shapes that maybe you would associate with rituals. So there would be houses or boats, and then creatures, animals were added, birds, deer. And then eventually you start getting these more human shapes. So this Haniwa that we have here, it has holes in the side, and we think that rope went through these holes to help mark off the area that is the sacred space, which is the tomb. So these are placed above ground, demarcating where the tomb lies below. And if someone went to visit the tomb, they did not cross the Haniwa or the rope. Some Haniwa are quite large, some can be smaller. There's this really cool Haniwa museum in Chibayama, Japan. And this museum is next to an ancient Kofun tomb. And the museum, which has lots and lots of Haniwa, has set up outside replicas that give you an idea of what Haniwa would look like. So if you look at the bottom of our Haniwa figure, you see that there's just this kind of like circular form that's very plain. That would be the portion that would go in the ground and kind of stabilize it. And so this kind of skirt-like structure and then above would be above ground. So this Haniwa, from what we can gather, is a shaman. And in ancient Japan, a shaman was someone who could perform rituals, connect people to their ancestors. Some would even conduct healing rituals, which is why I want to move over now to the Dogu, this tiny little figure to the right. These little figures, these Dogu, were used by shaman to help people when they were having some bad luck. If something went wrong in your life, you would go to the shaman. The shaman would transfer the bad luck into the Dogu. And then the shaman would break the Dogu, which would end the bad luck. So because the purpose of Dogu was to destroy them. There are not many of these left, and the ones that do survive are typically broken in some way. The Burmese Dogu is quite unusual because it's in such good condition. What's really fun about Dogu is, what is this meant to represent? Is this a human figure? Is this some sort of spirit figure? But it's the decoration, the face. And if you look at the Dogu and the Haniwa, there's not really a particular interest in realism. We're not looking to have an exact replication of the world. Everything is on a spiritual level.